Well, the weather's been pretty tough in our gardens this summer, but Denis Flanagan of Landscape Ontario is here with some help and also some tips on how to make your garden kind of the summer of your, or the center of your summer entertainment. But let's get to the problems first, because we've got lots of viewers wondering what to do about the drought and what to do about all the bugs that came this year too.
Yeah, questions of the week, there's no question. Last year we were complaining it was too wet, this year it's too dry. So water conservation really shouldn't just be this week, it should be forever. We should be thinking about it. So I know the lawns are brown, that's okay. They're going dormant.
I've let mine go dormant because I'm like, my plants are more important than the lawn is.
They're gonna come back in September when we get some rainfall again, there's no question. So that's the big one. The tougher ones are newly planted containers, vegetable gardens, which in this heat are suffering a little bit. And so any way that you can keep the moisture, keep the water in the ground is really the secret. And so things like hanging baskets are a real challenge sometimes.
Yes.
So if you can plant them up in moss or cocoa fiber.
Instead of putting them in a plastic container.
Instead of just the plastic, it's going to hold the moisture. Watering, you know, the old tip, water early in the morning is way better than midday. And trying to water at the ground surface in your vegetable and flower gardens, not overhead sprinkler, which is very wasteful actually.
Okay.
So if you can use a soaker hose or drip line irrigation.
Or even just take a can and just make sure you water.
Down the bottom, that's where it wants it, on the soil, not on the foliage, not on the leaf. So those are the best things we can get through the heat. And the bugs, well, what are the big ones right now?
The beetles.
Like, well, the beetles.
And we're not the Fab Four either.
No, not the
the other beetles.
Fab Thousands, actually. Apart from getting up really early and looking on the underside of leaves and physically picking them off, picking insects off, that's a great thing to do. A product that we don't use enough is called lime sulfur. That's great to use throughout the summer, as is neem oil. Neem oil actually suffocates the insects. So
so it's something that you spray on, and it's safe to use?
Absolutely safe to use, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, to me, the idea is to minimize the pain in gardening so you can get to the fun side.
Because you've done all this work, you want to be able to have friends over and say, hey, look at my beautiful garden.
You do, and we invite people over, and, you know, at Landscape Ontario, we run a lot of educational seminars and trade shows, and so we're always learning what the sort of leading edge stuff is going to be, mainly through our trade shows, and what we're finding is this theme of entertaining and growing your own food is so strong. And it can be as simple, Annette, as we talked about drought, you know, anything that's succulent.
Okay, so like these plants here?
These plants here require hardly any watering, actually, because their leaves are succulent, they're a cactus family, and they maintain that moisture within them. So a simple little thing like that on a coffee table out in the garden.
You're not going to have to worry about watering.
You're not going to have to worry about it. If you want to get a little bit more adventurous, look at some of the new plants that are coming down the pipe. How about that for an interesting centerpiece?
That is the tiniest little hosta I've ever seen.
That is a new dwarf hosta, and that's about as big as it gets.
Really?
Yeah, so putting that in a container on a table, and just like you, first thing you did, you touch it, you engage, and that's what we want to do when we're entertaining with friends, is put something in the center of the table that gets them talking, gets them thinking. This is a heuchera, but most people, if you took the label out, would think that's a lettuce, right?
Yes, it does look like one.
and so...
And look again, I'm touching it.
And that's what you wanted.
That's why you don't put cactuses on the table, I guess, right? Not if I'm coming over.
But it's okay to touch those plants. It's bug season, as you said, of course, citronella. Let people touch that. Get
that. Has a great smell.
Get that going around the entertaining area, and that scent keeps away the bugs. People are, in the garden.
We have about a minute left, so we're gonna...
Okay, no problem. So if you want to be really different, you invited a party over for dinner, instead of the 12 red carnations in the middle of the table, just get a plastic tray and spread that little green moss around. It's just decoration. And pick 3 unusual vegetables, all right? Red cabbage. Yeah, some Hungarian pepper. Put that in the front.
And you're not taking them out of the containers,
right?
No,
because after the party, you're going to plant these.
You're going to plant them
in your vegetable garden.
You can have them as little favors
or
too,
you
right?
could send your guests home with something, and a little bit of tricolor sage there.
Oh, that smells so good.
And so now that's enough plants to have a whole conversation during your dinner party, and then when you finish dinner, go off into another part of the garden for dessert and pick a fresh gooseberry.
Gooseberry. Wow, I haven't seen a gooseberry plant in ages.
I know. And all this stuff is coming back, and we're seeing that as great trends in the garden center industry, and people are going to garden centers looking for unusual plants like the curry plant and gooseberry and some of the neat vegetables that can double as centerpieces.
Okay, Denis, thanks so much for the tips. Landscapeontario.com for more information. Always a pleasure having you in.
My pleasure.
And we have more news coming up at 8:30. Stay with us.